likely to be anti-intellectual, so they're less likely to disrespect this type of engagement. But the average audience, be it in fiction or like in politics, they're not trying to hear all that. They don't care
Maybe
about
not in
this.
politics, but I think in fiction they definitely are. I think we've seen it. Like, again, we've seen it with Eric and Goons. They literally spawned in one day, shot up to tier 1 on everyone's tier list, and then dipped.
Yo, this rage rate's gonna work so fucking well.
You just have to do it in
Well,
the right way. Like, I think Apollo tried doing it, and then, like, because Apollo's rhetoric was so bad, it just didn't work for him. But, like, you know, I definitely think people respect it in this comp. That's why you see on the tier list most of the people that know how to do it are OP.
wait, but then you're saying, then what you're saying is like, do like asking for the formal argument itself isn't like the rhetorical tool. It's like asking it in a specific way. So you're saying?
As long as you don't say like a retard. Like if I go like, what's the formal argument that establishes whatever proposition you're talking about? Dude, Apollo. And I'm only citing Apollo for this because he's the only person I've ever heard do it like a retard way. He'll be like, maybe it's because of the pedophile. Like he tried to do it with the pedophile shit. He's like, what's the formal argument that establishes I'm a pedophile? Maybe that's the reason why he sounded so bad. But like.
It's so horrible. That
Yeah,
establishes
that's like
why I'm a pedophile.
Like, yeah, maybe it doesn't have to do with so much the way they deliver it. Maybe it has to do with like what the defending. Like I think that's more like a topic thing.
Bro, that's some
Okay.
single feature shit.
So I mean, okay, I'm not super. I don't even know why I'm like really trying to dive into this. I'm not even active in like fucking power scalers communities. But in my experience, most of my experience comes from like Chrome, Juju circles. They don't like it, or they wouldn't say you win a debate because you ask for premise 1, they don't give it, and the debate ends or whatever. They would like you to see like some.
Like if you go up to
well, right now we're talking about
if
like
you go up to Juju
rhetoric,
and
right?
like, well, just winning the debate in general. Like, if you were to go up to Juju, like ask him to judge a debate. Like I think if you like look at any of his judgments, he'll always say like, oh, you didn't respond to this. Oh, you didn't respond to that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And it's like, well, if I asked them on the phone points an argument, they can't do that, and they just didn't do that. So I would win by that metric. I think most of them just lie when they say that. Ironically.
Right now, we just talked about like, is it like rhetorically appealing to some audience or whatever. Whether I think we already went over like the whole judging standards and like it led us over like the competitive debating and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I still think like even if like you say they don't like it or whatever. Like yeah, I still think like obviously they like it enough to put you higher on their tier list. So it's like. I don't know why they would like not like it and then move you higher on their tier list.
Well, I mean, they might just have like some type of standard that allows you to quote unquote win a debate on like substance or whatever, but it's not being rhetorical.
I'm gonna try and force Luna into an ult so I can ult after her.
I mean, Juju didn't like the way I debated back in Academy X, but he still had me super high. Like, he had me above him.
I just think that's like a weird contradiction. I don't know. Why would you form a metric on something that you don't know?
I'm selling. What the fuck is this?
I mean, no, one thing is rhetoric. The other thing is like, many people make a separation between like substance and rhetoric, right? Like what the argument is and how the argument sounds or whatever, or like how the argument is delivered, I guess.
Wouldn't it look worse on the guy that can't like deliver a formal argument? Like would he look worse in the conversation?
I don't know if it would look worse for those people because a lot of those people can't be there, so they're like super sympathetic and like biased, you know. Like if I go, like
well then I think they're just like, I'm just gonna take a book from Ask Yourself. I don't know. If they're not able to analyze their imperfections or whatever, or the character, and like no, and if they're what did he say? He's like he said some shit like, if you're able to analyze yourself and see what you're doing is wrong and not make that change, then you're just a shitty person. He said something like that, like like I don't know, like that's just what it sounds like. I asked the debate Juju once actually, and he said no.
Wait, I don't. Are you saying like, Are you just saying they're like shitty people?
Life is hard
That's-
sometimes.
That's
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that they're just inconsistent. Like,
God damn it, my headset just died.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready. We escape the collector together, little one. We shall face this new threat side by side as well. If only all yokai were so agreeable. The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it? If we see it time, some uninvited guests. Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
Needed that boost. Back in the swing of things.
Capture the mission area! Here comes
Head in my step. Feeling good. Yeah. Here's how you shoot. I can just about see how this thing should work. Born again. It's pretty brilliant.
I'm selling! What am I doing?
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man. Count on me. Round and pound. Be sure those are bad guys. Hey, we make a pretty good team. Hang on, the cool stuff takes time. That put some pep in my step. Yeah.
That's 3! To the heart.
Life is hard sometimes, but at least maybe I can make it easier for other people.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
I know why I'm in this fight, but what made you crawl out from under your rock?
There are so many powerful souls here, and I have come to collect.
Hate to disappoint, Your Majesty, but on my watch, everybody lives.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Slightly less so on my guard. Ah, look who's here.
Feeling good. Spider Fist is ready to pop. I think I like these odds. I gotta do better this time. Web shooters locked and loaded.
Against the world.
Behold, that child!
Count on me.
Your team's turret.
With the amazing Spider-Man. Nice.
You're right there! What are you doing? Oh my god, what are you doing? What are you doing? Holy fucking shit.
I'm not a vengeful person, but today I'll make an exception.
Political audience outside of the server, outside of like the politics server, because I mean you seem to agree with like my hypothetical. There's like there's like some like Destiny debating, and he says like let's do one. The band was gonna laugh at him.
I was just being charitable there. I don't know if that would actually occur. I don't want to like take that back. But I don't have experience with like. The only experience I have with people talking about politics is Destiny. So it's like,
I mean,
But
that's never
I mean,
happened.
yeah, but you seem to agree because even way back in the conversation, you said the reason why Destiny doesn't do it when we were talking about does Destiny do it and stuff. You said the reason why he doesn't do it is because he's debating with 10,000 people watching. Presumably, this having 10,000 people watching him would only stop him if those 10,000 people would overall not like it or find it like rhetorically ineffective, right?
I don't actually know. Like, I said that it was because he was debating in front of an audience earlier. But it could be for other reasons. Like I said, like most of the time I'm just talking to you, I'm being charitable. Like,
So I tried being on point as long as possible. Sorry.
But I mean, there wasn't like
the audience could find conversations like that boring. That could probably be why he doesn't do it. I don't think the audience would necessarily find it bad in terms of substance. They just find it boring.
It's not even just like just being boring. It's just well, it's kind of obvious. But I mean, I guess we can talk about this if you disagree or something. Obviously, when people are talking about why is racism bad, someone going in there and being like, someone says like, well, racism is bad because you know it unjustifiably hurts people, and somebody hops on the panel and is like, yeah, I don't grant that that's logically valid. Give me the premise. Give me like the first premise.
I don't. Well, the only
Most
reason why
people
I think
would just actually laugh at that guy.
the reason why they would laugh at that guy is because. But you see what you're doing though is like you're loading like some obvious answer to a thing. You're loading something that should be like clear as day. It's intuitive to everyone into like well, why are you even like defending that? You know what I'm saying? Like you just said like murder is bad. Like that's
Like with racism.
oh racism. Sorry, racism is bad. Like yeah, like okay, no shit, everyone's gonna agree with that. It's like the same thing we talked about with Apollo. Like if Apollo were to come up and say, what's premise one of the argument that establishes that I'm not a pedophile? Yeah, that's gonna make you look bad, but it's not
Right,
gonna make you
okay.
look. The reason why you don't look like the reason why you look bad there is not because you asked for a sound argument. It's because you're trying to defend some like really absurd view.
We'll be coming in 30 seconds.
Okay, then I mean, if you, I can change it if you want. It's still gonna look obviously funny. I mean, okay, let's say someone is talking about communism against capitalism, and someone says communism is better because there's like less expected almostness under communism than capitalism. And the capitalist is like, okay, what's the formal argument for that? Give me P1. Do you think
Oh,
that,
fuck me!
the panel wouldn't laugh at it?
What's the argument that it's expected? Well, I don't think that's ridiculous.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about you thinking the question is ridiculous. But like, the thing that comes
I
off
don't
as
think
ridiculous
I
to
don't
these
think in
audiences.
general it's ridiculous. No, like well, now that you mention it, Godfight does that all the time, and it's kind of funny when he
I
does
don't know
it because.
Catfight is.
Do you know who Philosophy King is?
No.
Well, he does that all the time. Like someone, like Goons even does that. Like if someone were to say like, this is expected under this hypothesis, or like, X explains this better than Y. Like, yeah, I don't think it's ridiculous to. That's correct, he's right, you know? I don't think
Wanda is so skilled, man.
that happens a lot actually.
I mean, half the reason like people like Eric think like aren't confident that they wouldn't be confident to like debate Destiny on a stream or whatever. It's exactly because they don't think these type of things would work on this type of communities, right? I mean, again,
Is that what he
okay,
said?
I'll just say like, well, yeah, well, that Eric said that like he wouldn't be confident in like rhetorically winning against Destiny in this stream, and his whole rhetoric is like asking for like a firm argument, at least like most of the time.
That's not as
Like,
I don't know how he would debate Destiny. I don't know if he would debate Destiny on his Destiny account or his other account where he's like normal, but I don't really know the concept of that, so I'm not gonna really comment on it.
no, okay, it's fine. Okay, yeah, we can just like, we can just forget about this one. It's fine. I mean, the thing that comes off is like, funny as fuck for most people in like the politics side is because you don't learn what a premise is when you're learning about like communism or capitalism or economics or racial issues or trans issues. You talk about policies, you don't talk about formalized statements. But like, obviously, it comes off funny to them because they don't even really know what a premise is. It's obviously not appealing to them.
I don't think that's true. Like, Synth talks about politics, and so does
Well, yeah, but if you notice, half of the time they're with like a big audience in politics. They almost never ask for like premise 1 or premise 2. They almost never even offer a formalized argument. Most of the time come in natural arguments when they're in
that's
front of a
fine,
big
but
audience.
I just don't think it's retarded to like if someone were to say like, oh, this is expected under this hypothesis. And this is like, what's the argument that this is expected under this hypothesis? Like, yeah, I don't. Think that's
No, that wouldn't be absurd. That wouldn't be absurd because this doesn't come off as you asking for the formal argument. They would just give you another natural language argument. The thing that would be fucking funny as fuck for the average political audience would be asking them what is the formal argument, or asking them what is the first premise. That's what comes up as funny.
There's two ways to go about like the conversation. I think the reason why it might come off as funny is because it might be obvious the person's being disingenuous, or the person can like genuinely just be confused and want like a formal argument for stuff. Either way, I don't think it's like really ridiculous. Like I think it's expected that like a lot of people would just be disingenuous at some points. Like even if you like want to say like
You shouldn't push too far up.
disingenuous, then they're being ridiculous and like okay. That's disingenuous. I don't think the act of asking for a formal argument for non-trivial stuff in politics is ridiculous in itself.
I think you just have like
I don't know what the
overly. Yeah, I think you just have like over. Have you? Okay, I don't. Yeah, I think you said like you don't really interact with like politics that much. I guess I don't know. This is just kind of obvious. I guess through experience, I could show you for I don't know, but you can ask like the most basic level questions, and if it's not like supernatural language and things that you would learn on like just the very topic itself, like if we talk about communism, the term you're gonna use better be mentioned on papers about communism. Um, so for example, I recently, okay, and I know this doesn't, fully prove the claim or whatever. It's just some self-experience, but just to give an example. I recently got like jumped on Twitter because I was asking a guy to give me, to like lay out his like normative ethical view to understand why you thought something was bad. He told me this is like okay. I said okay. When you say okay, what does that mean? Tell me the normative view. And I was getting jumped because like I was getting jumped by that politics side because talking about normative views is just like ratty and feel low bro and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I just call him retarded. I just like.
Well, yeah,
well,
I mean, I
just,
agree.
like,
I agree that
at
most
that
of the
point,
time
like I
retarded,
just
but-
wouldn't. At that point, I just wouldn't even care. Like I wouldn't even consider it. Like obviously, I don't even think if I adopted their views on what's rhetorical, what's not rhetorical, I don't even think I'd convince them. So it's like, who cares? Like obviously, politics
you
is gonna
could-
deal with like what's ethical and like what's not ethical. That's what we form our laws around most of the time. So it's like. That's
Well,
just
yeah,
dumb.
but that's the thing. That's where I made the mistake. I was too philosophy brained on a non. Well, politics is technically philosophy, but I think you understand what I mean when I say philosophy.
Yeah.
What I should have done would have said like, well, no, it is not okay because it brings about this amount of like harm or whatever. This is still me kind of teasing out their view because if what they mean like good or bad has nothing to do with harm, so help. So it would be like the appropriate way of doing it. By asking them what's the normative view, I was like rhetorically ineffective. And I guess like you also said like they're just retarded. You don't think like you would be able to like convince them even if you adopted their views on like their metrics and like rhetoric. I think you would. You just need to do what I just like things like what I just said. You just substitute the fancy terms, and you tease out their views by giving your view. Obviously, if they disagree, they're gonna tell you they disagree. You ask why, and now they're gonna tell you the disagreement in natural language, and you're gonna come off as like reasonable. But if you just tell them like, well, tell me your normative ethical view, you're fucked, because half of the audience doesn't even know what the fuck that is, and they think you're ratting.
Where's the synthetic and eidetic reduction, dumb fuck? I'm gonna need primitive person conclusion where the conclusion is that my
Womp womp.
you fucking weak.
It's definitely influence. Look, yeah, I mean, I don't have much experience with politics, people. So, but every time, like, it's just funny the example you gave. Like, I see that all the time. Like, what's the argument? This is expected. What's the argument? This explains that better. Like, and then they'll always frame it like a funny.
Yeah, I see that too, but I assume the way you see it is
I
like
don't know. I haven't
talking.
politics people.
But I assume like when you see it, they're talking about like I don't know, humans existing, being expected of theism and stuff like that, right?
I was more so like referring to like, well, yeah, that can be an example. I was more so like, what's the argument?
Yeah.
That like X explains this phenomena better under realism than anti-realism. Like stuff like that. Like, I don't.
No, yeah, I grant that.
think-
I have.
I think the reason they find that stuff silly is because I unironically think that like a lot of politics people on Twitter are like genuinely like fucking sped. Like I think if they were to like actually get into philosophy, they would realize how sped their views are. And I think they know that, so that's why they don't want to do it. That's why they like make.
Well, yeah, no, like I agree. I think the average audience in politics is like fucking stupid. Most of them are just like LARPers, or they just take like the line from their favorite debater and repeat it on Twitter or whatever. This is like obviously true. But yeah, like it doesn't really change what I was saying. I was just saying like there's this big community that is big in both fiction and philosophy put together. And if we use our rhetoric metrics by what the biggest amount of people find rhetorical, then it would be what these retarded people find rhetorical, which I don't really like, I guess.
Well, just keep in mind though, when I said that earlier, it's gonna be in reference to like communities that I've had experience with. Like I said, I don't have any experience with politics people, but like, I feel like politics in general is like such a broad term. Like it doesn't encapsulate like a specific like community. It's like technically everyone is related to politics in some way. So it's like when I say community, I'm mostly just referring to a server as a like
I mean,
whatever.
I'll be honest,
like
you could-
some people I know, like not just randoms.
You could probably just get like Destiny and Assan viewers. Most of them wouldn't like the what premise one thing, and most of them are probably bigger than like all the communities you've interacted with like put together, right? Well, I mean, Assan is like 1 million. Like with Assan is like obvious, but Assan doesn't even think debating is like good faith. He doesn't even think debates are good faith. Imagine asking for premise 1.
Okay, well, like take Destiny. Like, if someone were to go up and debate Destiny and just ask, like, in like extremely as good faith, like no aggressive stuff, like, hey, I heard you talking about this. I was just like wondering like what the formal argument is that you have for this because it.
Thank you,
Thor. Kind of unclear. I feel like if you said it like that and you gave a reason on why you want the formal argument, I think you would have like an actual like actually a really good attempt at convincing people of Destiny's viewers. Like, you'd be like, we could just say like, hey, I heard you say this. This entails this proposition. If you still advocate for this, I was maybe wondering if you had a formal argument for it. If you don't, that's fine. I was just confused on the natural language stuff. And let's see if he actually gives a formal argument. I don't think that's bad. Like, I don't think people would disagree. Okay, that's ridiculous.
But the problem is that when people say like, if not, that's fine, that usually is taken to be as like, oh, if you don't do it, well, we can still find some other way to go about the disagreement. So they don't say like, if you don't, that's fine. They'll say if you don't, you lose.
Now I've got something to prove.
I would say like, well, obviously like Destiny would interpret it in a way where it's like, okay, if I don't have a formal argument, they're just gonna disengage. Because like, if I just give another natural language argument, then it's not gonna.
Well, yeah, well, but then, but then it wouldn't come off as like them debating. It would come off as something to do with like asking a question out of curiosity and then leaving.
I'm not a vengeful person, but today I'll
I
make
think that,
an
well,
exception.
yeah, I mean, well, if I'm trying to figure out, like, if Destiny's chat would react in a negative way or not, like, yeah, test the experiment to see, like, that would be the
Well,
test
no.
there, is going up and asking the question, see how the chat reacts, whether he gives it or not.
Well, no, because in order to test it, you need to like ask it in a debate, right? Like you wouldn't just go in there, ask it, and it doesn't do it, and then you leave. Because then it doesn't seem like nobody would laugh at you because they wouldn't think you were using this as like some reason to not believe in what he said.
Okay,
They would just think like you were just curious.
Okay, let's say this. Like, let's say you're having a debate with this, natural language debate, and then just insert the same thing, like, midway through the debate. Hey, I know you said this earlier. I was kind of confused on the natural language stuff. Do you have, like, a formal argument that establishes the proposition that's entailed by this view? And see how the chat reacts to that, 'cause I don't think the chat would react negatively to that either.
I think if you don't mind me asserting
Destiny
something,
himself would.
if you don't mind me asserting something, I think if you ever pose a question like that, I think everyone's gonna think you're good faith, no matter the community.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they would react
Yeah,
in a
nobody-
negative way. They would just
But
probably call you,
nobody's
like,
talking about
confused.
like being good faith. Yeah, like yeah. Well, if they call you confused, then obviously it wasn't rhetorical, right?
When we say rhetorical there, what I mean, what I thought you meant in regards
We
to
read
politics
what it
stuff.
means.
Well, listen, what I thought when you meant in regards to politics stuff, you would get laughed at. I don't think people would laugh at you. That's all I'm saying. I don't think they would see you in some like negative. What I mean by this, and let me be really clear. I don't think A, they would see you in some negative, disingenuous light, and B, I don't think that they would laugh at you. They'd probably just say like, oh,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
he didn't track, whatever.
You know, okay, wait, obviously it's not what I mean. You know, you can't just come off as like some, like, 70 IQ, obviously mentally deficient guy saying some retarded point that obviously they would make fun of you because they would feel
Loki,
bad,
do you
right?
want combo?
Like, obviously making fun of you isn't like what I mean by it's not rhetorical. I just mean they wouldn't like.
When I go in there
take
and
your
ult,
contention-
you go in there and
your
ult, alright?
contention like seriously. You wouldn't like lower their levels of credence on what Destiny said at all by what you did. it was like rhetorically effective.
I mean, this is all just speculation. I like half the like half the time I don't even think Destiny's viewers know what the fuck he's saying.
Okay, when he says the Israel-Palestine situation should be solved with a two-apartheid state, with a two-state solution or whatever, and you say, well, I'm not clear on exactly on what you mean by this. You say it should. I'm not really clear. Can you like give me some arguments as to why it should? He will just tell you, no. I can give you a natural language argument if you want. You say, well, no, I need a formal argument. He'll laugh at you.
That's super simple to understand. Like the example I gave was where someone, like maybe he says like some complex thing that like maybe not a lot of people understood, or like maybe even you just didn't understand. Like just ask the question out of your face.
Oh, like, okay, look, the example that I mentioned is probably like one of the most complex political issues going on right now. I don't know which political issue you talked about that would be the Palestine-Israel situation and how it ought to be solved.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man! 3 is the magic number.
Of course it is. It's like one of the
obviously, well,
oldest.
the issue with this though is like the question I led into though was like, hey, I didn't understand what you meant by this. Could you like formalize it? Like, someone asks like what you mean by should, that doesn't need like a formalization. They just give you like a definition.
No, not what you mean by should. Yeah. I feel like, oh, I'm not, because I don't know specifically what part you would say the person asking for the formalization was confused on. That's why